Thank you. Great. There we go. Thank you so much for being here. As I've said, I'm Alex Branzan. I'm a strategy director at WeAreFearless. We are a sports and entertainment marketing agency. And today in this session, I have the great pleasure of tackling a really interesting question, and that is, can businesses play a meaningful part in addressing some of society's inequalities? More specifically, what is the role that sponsorship can play in that? Can they genuinely, businesses, deliver on their DE&I commitments? And I'm joined today by two amazing professionals. I have been fortunate enough to work with both of them, and they will bring a really interesting lens on this question. So we're going to come at it from two very different perspectives. On the one hand, I'll be joined by Liesel, who is the women's football lead at Visa. She brings a lot of experience and an interesting point of view because, as we know, Visa, they are a pioneering brand that have supported women's football. Before it was a thing, before it was cool to support women's football, they became the first standalone sponsor of women's football when they signed a 7-year deal with UEFA in 2018. So really interesting to be hearing your perspectives on how Visa has delivered, not on this sponsorship in particular, but actually on their bigger commitment as a business to help level the playing field, even metaphorically, in society for women and girls. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm also joined by Joanie Evans, who comes to us with two very interesting kind of backgrounds and experiences. She is one of the legendary founding members of Hackney Women's FC. You may have not heard of that, and that is fine. That club is the very first openly out club in Europe and possibly the world, we think. They were out when it was actually still illegal to be openly promoting your identity publicly. And Joanie was there, helped found the club, helped make sure that it lives and it provides a safe home for women, whether they be openly gay or not, women with a passion for football, to come and express their passion and play football. But also, Joanie is co-president of the Gay Games. And the Gay Games, in case you haven't heard of them, and I will admit, before meeting Joanie, I hadn't. They are an amazing initiative run by the Gay Games Federation that has this mission of making sport accessible for LGBTQ+ community. And she does all of that whilst having a day job. So this is all just, a side gig. So really impressive. So thank you so much, Joanie, as well, for being here. And before we delve into the conversation and get your perspectives, I wanted to share a few thoughts of my own on this very big question: can businesses authentically support the DE&I initiatives? And the focus is on authentically. Will be, and you will have heard today from a lot of businesses that are living proof that yes, the answer to that is they can authentically support DE&I initiatives. They can authentically help fix some of society's inequalities, and sponsorship can be, a vehicle for them to do that. So spoiler alert, because of the work that I've done, because of the brands that I've been fortunate enough to work with, I believe the answer to that question to be yes. So I come from that, very positive lens of believing that. But having said that, I also know, and as I'm sure you will have seen as well, that it's very easy in this space to be getting it wrong. It's very easy to be not doing the right thing, even when you think as a business that you are. So there are some pitfalls to avoid and some solutions, and that's what I wanted to talk through first before we open up the conversation, just to share my perspective of, what I think those pitfalls are and how we can avoid them. The first one is, and I've borrowed this language from one of my favorite writers, Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who calls it, the danger of a single story. And that speaks to the fact that, it's not a shock to anyone. Just look around the room. And also, if you've been to this morning session, you have seen the stats. As an industry, we are not very diverse. The latest stats that I've seen on that from Statista say that 84% of marketing professionals identify as white. So there's no surprise then that the risk of having this kind of setup, this kind of group making decisions on DE&I with the very best intentions, of course, is that you end up with a single story. You end up with a very homogeneous point of view, and so you kind of risk exacerbating the very problem you're here to solve. So there's a lot of inequality, a lot of inequity, a lot of exclusion that comes from homogeneous groups. So we need to be mindful of that. And I know, we all know, this is a problem that we're trying to fix as an industry, but in the meantime, whilst we are here trying to, via sponsorship or otherwise, lead businesses down a DE&I path of playing a part in helping solve some of these inequalities, there are still solutions. You don't let that hold back. The fact that our teams and our business, our organizations are not yet diverse, don't let that hold you back. The first step is acknowledge your blind spots. I'm sitting here as a white, straight, cisgendered, able-bodied advertising professional that lives in London. So my background and my profile is very conventional. I will probably, definitely look at the world in a very conventional way because I navigate the world with this identity. So I have a lot of blind spots. That's fine, but there are the voices of all those minorities, of all of those excluded that we're looking to include with our projects that need to be at the table when we make decisions. And there are creative ways, don't have to be complex ways, creative ways in which you can get those voices across. Bring them in as consultants, bring them in as cultural anchors, as they say, which means, they don't have to be like a one-off consultation, box ticked, I got this person in the room, got their opinion, wow, I'm doing great. Bring them in long term so that you're sense checking, you're thinking decisions you make along the way with them. And another point is around building on what already exists. There's a lot of work, and I know we're going to be focusing a lot on women's football today because these are the worlds that you represent, and something that I'm also passionate about. But there are a lot of areas of exclusion that diversity, equality, and inclusion initiatives seek to address. So once you've identified that area, also look at who's been doing that work in that space, be those, grassroots initiatives, NGOs, people, standalone individuals that have made their life's mission. There's a lot of work out there that's already being done. So I think in brand marketing especially, there's this temptation to be reinventing the wheel sometimes and to be coming up with new package kind of platforms and initiatives. And actually, that's probably not the best use of effort sometimes. Build on what already exists, because if we're talking about making an impact on society, on some of the issues that society is facing, let's build on what already has been done. The second pitfall is cause washing. And look, I'm not coming at it again because I come at it from a very positive point of view. I'm not here to talk about those advertising execs locked in a room thinking, my God, we need to win lots of awards in Cannes, so in 2 years' time we're going to come up with lots of great campaigns that, let's make them purpose-led, that really wins in Cannes. Like that extreme, unfortunately, exists, that extreme version of cause washing when it's quite intentional and quite planned and ignorant. That exists, but I'm not talking about that. I came across this understanding of cause washing that I resonated with because I realized it's quite easy to be falling down that pitfall of a short-term perceived solution to a big problem that needs a long-term significant fix and solution. So what I'm saying here is that you could be unintentionally cause washing without realizing because you're not there to solve for the long term, to solve the big problem. You're kind of putting a plaster on an effect. So a solution here is, yes, definitely don't do that. Think about if we're in this space, if we're in this context of DE&I, if we're talking about fixing some of the wrongs in society, those are endemic structural barriers. The reasons why we have excluded kind of communities in various different senses is because those barriers exist. They're quite real. They are quite embedded in various different levels of society. So that is not going to be an easy fix. We need to be prepared to go to the root cause and help solve some of what is causing the problems rather than just fighting the effect. Because that's how you can tell, if those initiatives and those campaigns And again, I don't have anything against Cannes, but I know a lot of campaigns there that never really saw the light of day, but they were, they were awarded because they were very good at putting a really shiny plaster. We're marketeers, we know how to do that, on the effects. So think intersectionally, and I am a big fan of intersectionality because it's, again, navigating this world with the kind of identity that I have. I am very, very mindful of the fact that I will see the world in a very limited way. And I really like the birdcage analogy where someone said, if you look at a birdcage close enough and you don't see the interconnected kind of metal bars that actually form the birdcage, you might even get the illusion that that bird is free. So it's only by taking a step back and looking at the interconnected elements you realize, yes, they're not, and that's why they're not able to fly. So intersectionality is, I guess, what this analogy is pointing us towards is about thinking and forcing yourself out of the comfort of your identity and what you inhibit, especially what you inhibit, especially, as I said, as a wide, straight, very conventional kind of identity, to think intersectionally, to think about the interconnected kind of metal bars. And the diversity wheel can help here. Now, those of you in the room that have done work in DE&I will have seen this or a version of this. They will be familiar with what it says at the very least. So what it says and why I think it's a very good tool to be using to force ourselves to be thinking intersectionally is because it says, there are multiple elements, multiple kind of layers that can cause different sides of exclusion. So from that internal dimension of, who am I, what's my personality, what my gender, age, orientation, ethnicity, race, physical ability, all of that, to the external of, what my accent sounds like, what are the languages that I speak, what's the location, what's the postcode that I live in, all of that, to a more kind of external organizational type of layers, interconnected, back to the interconnected kind of metal bars analogy. They can create a whole new level of understanding of why someone might be excluded from, for instance, playing football, if they are young, from an unprivileged background, that actually don't identify as straight, or actually don't even know what they identify as because they're quite young. All of these kind of compounded create a very different understanding of exclusion. And so they'll give a very different understanding of what that root cause is. And that's where that's where I feel the businesses can play a part in, and that's where they should play a part in. And then finally, the last pitfall that I wanted to talk about is what Tricia Calendar called diversity dishonesty. And a way to understand what that is when companies especially are more focused on the D than they are on the I. The D, the optics of being seen as diverse, as being seen to do the right things, but not so much the I, not so much the actual inclusion. To be able to achieve inclusion, that's where all the work, all the hard work needs to happen. So let's make sure that we don't fall down that pitfall and that we avoid, playing this kind of diversity, dishonesty game that doesn't serve anyone. And it certainly doesn't serve the very issues that we are wanting to solve. And the solution to that is to leave it to be a support of a cause, and that has been mentioned throughout the day a lot, and it's definitely resonated, needs to be strategic, and it needs to be thought through by the entire business. It was really nice to hear, I think the panel a couple of hours ago, talking about how, sponsorship partnerships, but the understanding of what that is has evolved for the better in the past few years, where a business is getting behind a cause is not just, the silo of sponsorship teams or brand marketing teams deciding to treat this as, some sort of campaign. No, it is and it should be an entire business getting behind that cause. That's when you see, your employees becoming ambassadors of that cause as well. And that's when you see, the work itself going beyond brand marketing and brand comms into much more, I guess, much richer territories that actually get your business involved with that cause in a deeper sense. So those are my three kind of pitfalls and my three kind of solutions that I wanted to talk about. And that leads me nicely to open with you, Liesel. You know, I have worked with Visa, and I have seen firsthand just how much work you put towards women's football. You know, there's what is public, what you can see, but there's also a lot that just shows that you as a business are genuinely living that mission. And I wanted to start by just getting your perspective on this bigger question. How, based on your experience and everything that you've learned in your role, how can businesses authentically play a part in fixing some of these inequalities that we experience as a society?
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's definitely a role to play. I think if businesses choose something that's really authentic to them, and that doesn't necessarily mean about what your core business is, you know, Visa's core business is technology and financial payments, but that isn't necessarily where we're kind of finding our true partnerships. But if it aligns to your values as a business, then I think you can make something work that's really authentic, and that's what Visa's done. But beyond that, because I think that's a bit of a cliched answer, but beyond that, I think doing something that is long term, and I've heard you sort of mention that a couple of times, but there's a risk of looking flighty if you pick what's the kind of the most fashionable cause to support. Picking something that is authentic, but actually you're going to go after in the long term, because that's when you'll see the biggest change and you can make the biggest impact. You know, you're not going to, if you're supporting women's football or women's rugby or a sustainability issue, you're not going to see a true impact from that, from just working for a year on, you know, with a rights holder or an organisation or a community. So you need to be in it for the long haul. You need to be investing not just on those rights, but beyond that. You know, internally we would call that a badging exercise. So if you see people just splashing their branding all over it, but actually it doesn't really go deeper than that. And I think it's really important to go much deeper than that. So picking the programs and activities that are beyond that, how you can invest in a deeper way up, be that either with the rights holder or behind the scenes. So yeah.
That's you just reminded me of something, and I hope you are able to talk about that. When you talked about, you know, going deeper and actually go beyond what your rights cover, I know of certain things that Visa has done that, you know, you haven't necessarily marketed as such, you haven't really spoken about, but it just was the right thing to do as a business, the right way for you to live it, to be it. Would you be able to share some of those examples? I know there's some recent ones from the Euros even.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Euros and even what we're doing now with our work with UEFA, we also sponsor the Women's Champions League, which are taking place. The semi-finals are later this month, so we'll get yourselves to the matches happening in London. But, you know, we know that sometimes there are challenges with selling tickets to these types of events. You know, people know about men's football matches. You don't really have to market them in the same way. But you do have to put a bit more effort behind marketing tickets to women's football games. And that's partly just because of a lack of awareness. You know, people don't know that the matches are happening or when they're happening and how to get those tickets. But we know that people have a fantastic time when they get there, and it's a really inclusive, accessible environment, whether that's because of the person you are and your values and you know, your sexual orientation, but also, you know, accessibility financially, that because tickets to a lot of sporting events and other events are quite expensive. So despite all of that, we knew we had a bit of a challenge, but we knew that the Euros would be a huge success no matter what. So one example of us kind of going beyond was how we could just support UEFA with marketing of those tickets. And I think in the end we invested just in that alone over $1 million. And that wasn't even our own brand campaign, which was completely separate, and everything else we did on the ground. But that was really important to us, because we all know, and even from COVID, you could see what a difference it makes when you have an empty stadium. The atmosphere is just not there. And actually, I found COVID quite a leveller for men's and women's football, because you saw what a difference it made with an empty stadium. So we knew it would be a fantastic event anyway, and that the athletes are elite and the sport would be fantastic. But filling the stadiums was something we wanted to do. Getting behind that was important. And we're doing the same for Champions League. We're supporting UEFA with some media budget behind selling tickets. And that's not something we normally shout about. We just kind of do it because we think it's the right thing to do as a sponsor. But some of the other things, we have a roster of Team Visa footballers and athletes that we work with, and we always go beyond the partnership with them other than just, again, saying they're a Team Visa footballer. We support them on causes they believe in. But one of the things that I was quite proud of that we did at the Euros was we know that a lot of athletes, and this isn't unique to footballers or women's footballers, is the social media abuse that they all receive. You miss a goal or you mess up on the pitch, and the torrent of abuse is shocking. So we worked with a company who help sort of filter out any of that abuse, so that the person who's typing the abuse feels they've got it out of their system, because actually if you delete it and block, they just find another way to kind of circumnavigate. So actually that doesn't really solve the problem. But if you let them feel like they've said it, but nobody else can see that comment, so somehow it's blocked, they've got it out the system, but they don't get the response. They're not getting the kind of feedback that they're all craving after. So anyway, we worked with an agency and provided that technology to our Team Visa players because we knew they would come under fire no matter what they did. So things like that, again, just taking it a bit deeper. How can you do it in an authentic way? How can you, if we stand behind these players that we sponsor, you can't just be there for the good times. You've got to support them in the other areas as well.
Amazing. When you were talking about the abuse, it reminded me of our chat earlier, just as we were waiting to start the session, when Joanie, you were telling us about some of the, quite hard to believe now, but some of the experiences you've had when you started playing football, and some of the things that, some of the abuse that you were getting. And don't want to focus too much on that, but I guess what I wanted to get your opinion on is, you've been in this game for so long, and you've started, without making me sound too old, but you've been in this game for so long. Hackney Women's, again, 1986?
Yes.
And those were very different times. The level of openness towards women's football, let alone a team of openly lesbian and proud women, that was not a great time to be doing that, and yet you persisted. So I guess I wanted to get your perspective on how does it look from your standpoint, from your vantage point, to now see, especially post the Euros, the amazing level of support that is coming for women's football. You have brands, you have the media, you have, when you've been there from the start, and that was not quite the reality, and you maybe didn't even imagine a day like this would come. So how do you see brands jumping in to support now?
I think it's at the right time, I feel, because then all of the work that's been done over the years, it's coming to fruition now, and people can see the benefits of it now. I think it's really important, that where the women's game has come from on any level, because any woman playing a male-dominated sport will be seen as a lesbian. But now it doesn't seem to be an issue. A woman's sexuality and the sport that she plays or whatever she's involved in is not going to be a hindrance as it was in the beginning. For that, I'm grateful. But none of that would not have happened if, obviously, people like myself had been around to keep posing that question in front of people. But it's really about how the women's game in general, or women's sport, gets treated now moving on. Because obviously we've gone through all of the, we've earned our stripes, and we've gone through every eventuality about what would stop a woman from being in a sport, because women's football got banned. But I think just as women, we're sort of resilient anyway, and it's like, if we want to do something that we enjoy, we'll do it regardless of how much it costs or whatever. If we've got the time and energy, we will do it. But what makes it easier now is not just for those women that are already in the game, it's about those young women and girls that are coming through that now see that they have an opportunity to do that. For me, I didn't have that opportunity. Didn't play at school. I didn't get into football, to playing proper football till I was 25. And in that sense, I sort of sometimes feel like, where would I have been now if all the opportunities today was available then? But I think it wouldn't be the same thing, because I don't think you would have had the same companies at the same level ready to accept what is going on. And I think because there's so many companies who want to do well within the communities, it's for them to know how they can be of a help. But even the littlest thing I see, even for Hackney, is that their East London football team been going since '86 and still going. We still have issues where we may not have enough players, although we've got loads of people on our books, but it's being able to give enough players the opportunities, because it's a self-financed team. You know, they only run off the money that they collect through the registrations. It's the same like for the Federation of Gay Games. We're only funded through the money that we get through people wanting to host our event. So we're voluntary run board. So it's really about continuing to have people who have the passion to keep it going. But at this time, it's really about making it a bit easier for us. Really.
And back to the point earlier about, you know, going to the root cause, we obviously are celebrating women's football now. I'm very, very, you know, excited about the opportunities, about the potential. Let's not forget that had it not been for, you know, grassroots initiatives such as, you know, Hackney Women's, there probably wouldn't have been the players today to be taking us to the amazing heights that we are. So the importance of, you know, continuing to invest at a grassroots level as well. I think there was someone earlier in the session that said nothing ever comes to the grassroots from the top. It was a comment, I think, from the eBay case study. And, you know, it's so true sometimes, you know, grassroots tends to be forgotten.
But I think sometimes it's because grassroots don't really know how to ask, because it's always been that point where you just got to get on with it. If you really want something to happen, you can only make it happen yourself. But if groups knew that there were opportunities out there, then obviously they'd go for those opportunities. But it's whether companies will go to the grassroots or whether the grassroots needs to go to them. There needs to be this conduit whereby people know there's a place where you can go. If you need something, you can go somewhere and you can get, it's like going shopping. But it's that sort of making it more accessible in a way. So I think even for groups that I'm involved in, it's very difficult to get funding. But it's only when something changes, like obviously now there's this big change in women's football, so everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon and give money and whatever, but if Visa's doing stuff that's long term, that's better than somebody coming in and doing a one-off thing, because that's not going to improve, because what people need is assistance to continue in the work that they're already doing.
I want to open up to the audience now. I could speak to you forever, but I also am mindful that the audience might have questions. I think we have a question there at the back.
Hi, that was super interesting. Yeah, and I guess just to follow up with this point, so I play for a women's football team, and they have 4 clubs, and we do find funding really difficult. We can't even afford our pitch fees. Oh, thanks. And I guess, yeah, I'm just interested in how we kind of better support grassroots football.
Perspectives, I guess.
Well, you bring up a good point, because it's like most amateur teams, they're sort of like self-financing. So how can you get a company to pay your pitch fees? You should be able to get somebody, but it's knowing where or which companies would be able to do that, because usually they want something out of it. But it's really for companies just to want to do it because it's going to do good for the sport or do good in one particular area. So it is that sort of thing, but it's like, where would you know to go for that? And that would be that would need to know where that link is. So it's knowing which companies are available and what they're prepared to sponsor, or having conversations with different companies and saying, we need these things.
Can I also offer a point of view here? I sometimes think, just again, based on my experience and full disclosure, as I've mentioned, at WeAreFearless, we have done work with Hackney Women's FC. And for full transparency, what we've done is we've become sponsors of Hackney Women's FC because we opened up a women's sport division fairly recently, last year. And we realized, well, we are in front of big brands, and yes, there's a lot of expertise across the business. But we're in front of big brands trying to tell them they should be investing in women's sport. The best way to make sure that we always know what we're talking about, that we have our finger on the pulse, that we understand the challenges, the level of complexity, back to my earlier point, that they face, is to be in it, is to, you know, become sponsors. So we became sponsors, and it's been a massive learning curve for us. It's been, you know, from a research point of view, it's been great. So I was going to offer up, I don't know if there's something you've thought about, but maybe approaching not the big brands that everyone is going after, not the big agencies that everyone's going after. Try to approach some of, you know, those like-minded people that, you know, you could be offering yourselves up as a case study, as a research opportunity. You know, we can help you. That's what you bring to the table. One of the many things you would bring to the table is helping them understand what that world actually looks like. So it's a proactive kind of self, I guess, selling point that maybe you could reflect on. I don't know if it helps or not, but just a thought.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's it. You know, we're sort of early days in this process. And we have had some good partnerships, but I think, yeah, struggling to pay for your pitch fees is kind of crazy.
And I think it needs to be that when you're thinking about sponsorship, it's what you want them to sponsor you for. Because with Hackney, a lot of the previous sponsors we've had is that it's through women within the team that either have had their own company and have paid for the shirts. So in terms of that, that's always been the one area that Hackney have been able to get sponsorship for, but that doesn't then pay for the pitch fees. So it's really knowing what you want to go to a sponsor for. And obviously they're going to want to be able to put their name on something, but, you know, it's even that you can get people to sponsor you for footballs, you know, or for training equipment, but it's knowing first off what it is you want for a sponsor to give you and what's going to be beneficial for you.
Yeah, just to add on, I think finding probably local sponsors that have got skin in the game, because it works so well for the community, and maybe some smaller businesses, maybe female owned, who knows, but who actually really want to make a difference in their community, and try and find, you could do some even desk research on what are the companies and brands in the local area and where do your values match, and you'll probably take them a proposition that they can't say no to.
Let's hope
I think Hackney had a bagel shop once that was their sponsor at one point.
Yeah, we'll take anything.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Another question here.
Very fast. Hi, I'm Jenny. I actually work for London Sport. Our mission's to get Londoners more active, leading healthy and happy lives. So we should definitely chat after, because I'm sure we've probably done some work with you or around with you. But we essentially work with sector partners to help to get Londoners active. But just throwing it out there, so it's not really a question, but more comment around, we work with lots of grassroots clubs or community groups, and it's really hard, like you say, to get sponsorship from definitely massive organisations. Local organisations are a good shout. The other avenue is around trusts and foundations, where clubs and community groups can apply to get money. They then have to prove a few things like participation figures and things. But that's a really good avenue through. And I don't know, this is kind of a question, I suppose, but the other area that we work a lot in is where larger organisations have grant schemes, so health and wellbeing funds, that type of thing. Yep. And that's a way where grassroots organisations or smaller organisations can access funding, but with the support from a larger organisation that could obviously lead to various other things. It's mostly through a CSR element, but as I say, not really a question, but just wanted to say that
Thank you.
There's different options, and obviously public fundraising and other forms of income generation as well.
But I think that's where sort of on the grassroots level it gets missed out, because for a grassroots team they're not going to know all of those links to actually go to get the funding. I know that because there's Out for Sport, which is the member organisation for LGBT sports in London, and so they've got a sports fair happening on this Friday. So that's an opportunity for people to come and see what sports are there. But if we didn't have that, then people don't know, because through Out for Sport, there's some funding that can happen through LGBT Consortium. So there's little bits of pockets of money around, but it's trying to make sure that information gets out to the grassroots, because I think that is the thing, is that being able to get the information out there.
Yeah, we should definitely talk. So we have a sort of funding place where we can...
We have time for one final question. These things never last as long as you think, but find us afterwards if you have any other questions. There's a question over there.
Thank you. I don't want to end it on a controversial note, but I'm really interested in knowing how the sponsor sits with Joanie's, with organisations such as yours, even when within the diversity that you represent, there are some conflicts about participation in that sport, particularly around trans players. And how does that, or does that frighten away a sponsor like yourself, Liesel?
Well, for the Federation of Gay Games, we don't have any formal sponsors ourselves, because it's usually whenever we run our quadrennial event, which is the Gay Games every 4 years, it's up to the host city to engage their sponsors. So at the moment, we're working out to get sponsors for us as an organisation, so that then will make the work that we do a lot more bigger. But it's never been an issue because of the nature of what we do as an organisation. That's there already. Mm-hmm. So when we're approaching people, we're approaching them with our full gamut of LGBTQ+.
And so does the participation involve the whole of the LGBT community, or do you apply some of the rules that the major governing bodies have put in place in terms of trans participation?
The only qualification to attend the Gay Games is to be 18.
Right, okay.
So it's an amateur, there's no qualifying levels for anything. We've been working on various policies like gender policies and trans policies. So it's really about how somebody self-identifies as to whether or not they want to participate, because our main focus is participation, inclusion and personal best. So it's giving people the platform to be their personal best within their sport or culture event that they want to do. At the moment, our next event, we've got 2 events running this year in Hong Kong and Guadalajara, which is the first time having a co-hosted event. So that in itself brings up issues in Latin America and in China, in Asia. Our next Games is in 2026 in Valencia, and their role is to have 2 categories, to have women and others. Mm-hmm. Because their focus is to actually increase our female registrations, get more women involved in all aspects of sports. But then you have also, there is a major thing about the trans issue, but because there's no qualifying level, it's only if a sport needs to have, if somebody's going to break a record, because we do like FINA, we follow their rules, and because they have different levels for swimmers and stuff. Yeah. At that point, it will be male, female, and you know, they'll get a medal from us. It's whether or not they need that recognition from a big governing body, but we do give everybody the platform to be their best.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join this session. And as I've said, find us afterwards if you had questions that we didn't got to. And yeah, the tea break takes place on the terrace.